Casual Magic has been brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL for 5% off your order. We're also sponsored by QuiverTime, maker of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine card-holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their site for 10% off your purchase. And by Architect, a deck hosting website that doesn't sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them for all your deck list needs. Now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam, Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Cool Stuff in QuiverTime and Architect. Today, I have a very special guest who I've been trying to get on even today for very many times. We've been trying this for like a year now to get together. My dear friend Allan from Mental Misplay. It's like a cEDH stream that shows up every day, and he also just bums around on all the various cons and brightly colored shirts, shoving microphones at people's faces. But just one of the most jovial and kind dudes I know. Hey, Allan, how's it going?
Things are good. Things are good. Exciting. I'm never not in the big things coming phase. Like I'm always just stoked. There's a lot to it. But yeah, thank you for having me. This is even today has been a trial, and we may just have to push it as a panel. Like be like, look, we can't figure it out live how to record it. We're just gonna have to do it.
I don't understand. I can talk to people in like Japan and China and freaking like Italy, but I can't talk to the dude on the other side of the country from me.
No, Rhode Island's too haunted, man. We got too much spooky, too much eldritch getting in the way. Excuse me, too much eldritch stuff getting in the way.
Can't edit this one, dude. This is Zoom. It's weird. Like I grew up in Massachusetts as a kid, and so we used to go down to Rhode Island to visit my dad's coworkers or whatever, and it was just cool. We'd go to Providence and see all the big houses and everything. My memories of Rhode Island are basically lots of weird Greek pizzas and just like seeing the ocean and vineyards and stuff. It was really cool.
That's a big part of why I love it. So I grew up in Brooklyn, and coming here every summer to be like on the water. My dad is really likes being on the water, and then my folks moved out here from Brooklyn, and I spent a number of years in the city on my own, and then with my wife, and then in the pandemic with a 1-year-old, and we said, no, we got to get out of here. We were in the 2-bedroom apartment with a 1-year-old in the middle of the pandemic, and said, no, we need the support network. We need to.
There is not nearly enough room in here for all of us.
No, it was not fun, and so we figured we'd be by I'm 10-minute drive from my folks. 10-minute walk from my sister, and then my in-laws are like an hour north of me as well, so we get the whole network out here. And the other thing for me, it's something I try to share and try to talk up a lot, is I really like the water. I like swimming. I like being in the water.
Same.
And you can't throw a brick without hitting public water access out here. It's everywhere.
Yes.
And to me, that's really, really important. I even went January 1st, I went and jumped in the bay. I did the polar plunge and everything. The first one was great, and I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And I dove in again, and I got the whole brain freeze. I thought my head was gonna crack open. It was the perfect way to start the year.
Oh my god, yeah, it's that's one of the things. I live in California, but before this, I've lived in Massachusetts, and I lived in California and Japan and other places. One of the cores for me is I cannot live more than half an hour away from the ocean or a body of water or something like that. I need to, right now, I can walk to the San Francisco Bay from my house, and it's just it's vital to me to be able to see seagulls, to smell the ocean air, to smell the weird California sages that grow on the beach and all the dunes and everything. I can't do it without it. Everyone's like, man, you live in the most expensive part of the country. You should move to literally anywhere. And I'm like, yeah, but I have the ocean. Yeah. I can't not do that. I need the ocean. It's such a big deal to me just to be able to walk around the beach. And everyone's like, oh, you live in California, you must go to the beach all the time. I'm like, bro, the beaches in Northern California are like the beaches in the Arctic. They are ice cold and rocky and gross and miserable because all the hot water goes to SoCal, and then the cold water from Alaska comes down here. But it doesn't matter because there's tide pools and there's seagulls and crabs. in Gujarati we have a term vatavaran, which means like the atmosphere, the holistic just feel of it. Like the vibe of being by the ocean is just such a big deal to me. And yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Although in like 20 years my house is underwater, I probably will trade
Yeah,
it.
we got I think it needs to rise 8 feet before we're underwater where I'm at. So
Yeah.
it's pretty tight. And the tide already has like 6 or 7 foot difference here. I know the tide by out in California is a little crazier,
Well, and
but
plus, like the town I live in was built on landfill, like on like filled in water in the bay. So it's just kind of like it's already lumpy and uneven. So it doesn't take much for us to just start swimming.
I really like to something that really since I've been up here really clicked into place was people like to throw the term touch grass around.
Mm.
And for me, like I've literally had days where I was like so consumed by everything that I was like, okay, I'm gonna hop on my little board and blast down 10 minutes to the water and just throw myself in the bay and reset. And it really is like for me, it's like and just lay there, look at the sky. The water's so salty out here that you can just
Oh
float
yeah.
in it. Like it's just like it's a big deal for me and something I like to share with people as well. If I have
Uh,
friends come visit, I'm like, we're gonna go for a swim for
oh
sure.
yeah, dude, that's the best part, man. I loved go, especially the coastline of Rhode Island, especially is just really underrated. It's so
Yep.
gorgeous.
There's a lot of it too. Like I don't
Yeah.
know the exact fact, the exact measurement, but I want to say that there is like Rhode Island has like the most coastline like, because there's so
Yeah, because
much.
it's just so craggy and there's islands and
Yeah.
all this crap. And it's like I remember when I was a kid, we used to go out on like people's boats and just go hang out and chill in the bay and like,
Yep.
eat pizzas on the grill and the whole thing. It was so amazing. Oh man, that's a memory I haven't thought of in like 30 years or
Nice.
something.
Core memory unlocked. Great. Good, good,
Yeah.
good.
All
And
right,
I
man.
mean,
So who are you? How does this happen? Like, why are you? It's weird to me. Like this, there's this weird dichotomy of Allan because, like, on the one hand, you're a clown in the sense of like, and I don't mean that in like an insulting way. I mean that in the sense of like you're literally just always very big and very excited, and very happy, and very just like old school clown. Like, I could imagine you running around with like a flower that squirts water at
oh my
people or
God,
whatever.
a bike horn, I'd love it. I'm
Yeah,
running around. I mean,
exactly.
I made jokes about running around the Magic Cons with like an air horn and
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
And
like I could totally see that. And on the other side, you're an incredibly like well um oh, what's the word I'm looking for? You've got like this just great sense of like social justice and also just like you help out anytime anybody's got a charity stream going on or anything that helps our community and stuff like that. You've got a huge heart, but at the same time, you're like just a walking doofus. It's like it's so funny to me. This kind of like, and I say this out of love, right?
oh, of
Like it's just
course,
like
no, I
it's
totally get what you're saying. It's there's been a lot to that, a lot to kind of cultivating that. And as far as cultivating like an attitude of like being jovial, cracking jokes, all that. I think I mentioned it the other day, a long time ago. You said, what's the most important thing when you play Commander? What do you look for? And for me, it's laughter. I think that's really, really important to be able to sit with my friends and crack jokes and all that. And I come from, like I said, I grew up in Brooklyn. So like I'm used to the cipher of like me and all my buddies like busting on each other and cracking jokes and acting wild and all that. And it took 20, 30 years of me saying the wrong thing and learning what gets a bad reaction and what not to say. It took a long time of me making jokes and everybody has the internal dialogue of like the thing I said 20 years ago that I want to tear my skin off because I said it and I'm still embarrassed. And it took 20, 30 years of saying those things to learn like, okay, like maybe I can tailor this to be appropriate but pushing the boundary and that kind of like making jokes and all that. And then the other side of it is seeing, like you said, the sense of social justice, seeing what needs help. And there's a whole story behind that. And I can go right into it if
mm,
something. So I've told kind of like the content origin story, but not in full detail as far as like where the charitable aspect comes from. And I started doing this in the pandemic. So I had like an Instagram account before that.
Mm.
And like me and the boys in Brooklyn, we had like a crew of people who would play regularly, like a couple times a week. And we did it enough and started showing up at like the Grand Prix and then the Magic Fests and all that. And so we decided, let's get some hoodies, some matching hoodies. And we made these Ramp Gang hoodies because there was a guy who taught us when you play Commander, it's ramp or die.
Mm.
And it still holds true today, you know.
I mean, that's my motto.
And he had a play mat. His name was Nate. He had a play mat that said ramp or die, and he had a custom rampant growth that I wanted to say maybe Rebel painted for him that had him on it with knuckle tattoos that said ramp or die. Um, and and I started an Instagram account and got pulled into a Instagram group chat by Zbex. And it was a group chat for like engagement farming, for like, posts. And that group chat's still going today. And it is, and then I got pulled from that group chat into another one. This is like the secret group chat that was hey, like we see you in here, we see the attitude you have, come over to this one. And that was like the more kind of ribald, less filters. And those are the people who were in that group chat I consider kind of my day ones as far as content creation. And it's been awesome to see those people flourish over the last 3 years. So people in that were people like Modanon, Faded MTG, Vile Smash, some of my really good buddies. And one day, well, like this was like before the pandemic, and then through it, we would play Magic like almost nightly over Skype. We were playing on Skype.
Oh God, the Halcyon did before Spell Table showed
Yes.
up, when we used anything we could.
Yep, and sometimes we weren't even jamming games. We were just sitting there in their chairs, like cracking jokes and stuff, because we couldn't leave the house. And then one day I was like, we should stream. I'm gonna stream. I'm gonna do this. And I started streaming and I really enjoyed it. And I don't know what came first. I think I was streaming a fair amount, and like once a week, I think on Fridays, because people couldn't go out to the LGS. People couldn't, during the pandemic, there was no Friday Night Magic anymore. So I was like, sure, I'm going to be that. I'm going to be an outlet for people to play, and for the people who can't go out, for them to watch. And I had approached, so now we get into the thick of it as far as the charitable stuff. My grandfather worked for Berkshire Hathaway, and he ran his New Bedford factory. And so this is like deep. This is the deep Allan lore here. So he set up a fund to take care of my grandmother and take care of all her expenses, and also to take care of like health stuff for all his like grandchildren and all that stuff, and wanted to set it up so that people, and she ended up with like a degenerative neural disease. So she slowly deteriorated over the course of like a decade. It was really brutal. But he wanted it set up so that people weren't like rooting for her to die. Right. So those are his words. That's his words exactly. So he set it up so that the money that was there for her health and all that stuff would then go into a Fidelity charitable account. And the only thing you can do with this money is donate it. And it has to be to a registered 501c3 within the Fidelity network. So you know that these are like legit charities. And so before she passed, he sent out letters to me and all my cousins that were like, who wants to donate something? Who has a charity that they want to donate to? And this is a long time ago now. I was training full time, like 4 days a week at the USA Shaolin Temple. I was training there, for lack of a better word, religiously. Like, it was a religious institution. It is a religious institution. Yeah. And I was
if you're there 4 days a week, that's much more than that's an investment, right? Like, that's at that point a core part of what you're doing.
Yes. So I became I am a full on 36th generation warrior monk. Like I took a discipleship. I have a disciple name, the whole thing. I was in it. And so they were registered within this network, and I said, donate to the temple. And my uncle said, no doubt. And he sent some money to the temple. And then, a couple of years go by, and my grandmother passed, and he said, look, I sent out those letters, and you were one of two of your cousins, and I have like 10 cousins on that side, one of two who even gave me an answer of where to donate to. So we're going to make you a co-signer on one of these accounts. And
Huh.
so I've got this account that I can only use. It's like kind of like not quite a Brewster's Millions situation, but it's like I've got this account that I can only use to donate to charitable endeavors. And so I ran around and I saw, so this is where in June-ish of 2020, I think, the summer with the Black Lives Matter riots and all that, where things got real crazy. Not
Yeah.
riots, but the things got real wild.
Protests.
And protests, yes, thank you. And I saw that Channel Fireball was doing the Command Fest digitally, and they were having like creators featured and all that sort of stuff. And so I reached out to Zebex because I saw she was featured, and I was like, who do I talk to? Because you guys, there is a charitable backing. There is a charitable aspect of this. Who do I talk to? And she said, go on the Discord and just start blasting the mods on the Discord and ask who to talk to. So I did. And I found the guy, and I said, look, I want to be a major charitable donor for this Command Fest thing that you guys are doing. And he was like, yes, I love this. This is great. And then the protests happen, and I was like, like week to week, I would talk to this guy, and 1 week happened, and then the next week happened, and the protest talked to him, or the protest, and then I talked to him and was like, look, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a major donor, but there needs to be accountability. I can't just be the font of you guys virtue signaling. I can't just be an outlet for you guys to virtue signal. And he was like, I totally understand that. And he gave me a couple of different responses, but he was like, I want to be the guy who rocks the boat. I want to do this. And then he 100% ghosted me. Just disappeared, just never answered another message. So I was like mad. I spent like 2 months just mad, just angry, just like this guy, like all griping about it. And then one day I had the shower thought, the light bulb went off, and I said, all right, you know what? I realized I could just do it myself. I could just do my own charity stream.
I mean, yeah, basically.
Like, I don't know where the mental block was before that, but I was just like, oh, okay, I can just do this.
Well, there's this jump you have to make between I'm just the funder and I'm the actual organizer too, right?
Yes.
Like, because those are different segments of your brain, different types of things. Like one is like, oh yes, I'm, graciously helping you get to the cause you want. And the other thing is like, I've got the money and I'm doing the cause, I'm doing this. That's a whole different, it takes a different person to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And
so I did it. I don't remember what the first one was, but I spent like 6 to 8 months every month doing a charity stream and picking very hot button charities, stuff that was extremely relevant to the time, to current events. So things like Womankind, Stop Asian Hate, a lot of equity charitable things. There was one that was like specifically like a program that goes around teaching cops about equity, going to police stations and teaching the police officers about equity and how to, not be horrible. And so, so I did and I like once a month I would do these charitable events, and I learned quick, like I could just hit people up, I hit up Tappy and Jim, and they were like, hell yeah, we'll show up and stream with you. And and the response was enormous. People would show up to the streams, people would donate, but I went at it hard enough, and I would match. That's the thing, is the community would donate via Tiltify, and I would match 1-to-1 with this with the charitable
Mm.
fund. Um, and so I there was a lot of formative stuff that happened in those first few months. One being that Tappy came on the stream, and I was like, "This is entertainment," and I saw how she acted live, and I just zeroed in on it and was like, "This is how to party." Her and like, this is how you make a commander game into something that everybody's going to be entertained by. Her and
I've gone on the record for many, many years saying Tappy is basically the best thing in Magic.
she's one of the greatest entertainers when it comes to commander games, for sure. And I got in another couple with Spice 8 Rack,
I
and
love him. Love
he is
them.
also he did some stuff live in a game that I was like, he was clearly like doing it for the entertainment purpose.
Oh, Spice is so much fun to play with.
And I was like, this is amazing, the way he's treating this game like it's entertainment. And I was going through learning how to play in an entertaining way, because like I come from this super spiky, sweaty, comp background of like, I need to win, and was learning, going on other people's streams and learning that like that does not good entertainment make.
No, well, I mean, look, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say it doesn't make good entertainment. I'm just saying it can, but you have to have the right mentality to be able to make it entertainment. Because like old me would have straight up said, of course it's not entertaining, it's competitive, right? But new me is like, it's not that. It's, you can do it. You just have to have the right personalities playing. Otherwise, someone like Luis Scott Vargas wouldn't be fun to watch.
Yes. There's so it depends on the environment, it depends on the person playing, it depends on the meta, the format, and what you're trying to get out of the media itself, right? There's
if
so
I can
many
take it
variables.
aside for 10 seconds,
Yeah.
One of the things I think is that you can still be competitive and still have a hyperspike mentality and be entertaining if you and your pod who go out with the goal of being entertaining and don't just pick like the Thassa's Oracle deck or like some other just easy instant win. Like I remember once Loading Ready Run did a stream where they were playing like cEDH tier, but with the jankiest commanders they could possibly imagine. So it was just like bad, Kamigawa commanders and using garbage tier cards. You can play Cutthroat. It's just like, you just got to make sure if your deck is built to be entertaining instead of built to win, you can still play to win, but the cards coming off the top will just make it funnier by nature.
And I think there's even a more nuanced version of that, where you can be playing those tier 1 decks and be playing them, and if everybody's familiar with it, the jokes are baked in already,
Sure, of course.
Because so like I play that cEDH, and I've for a long time waved the banner of like, cEDH is fun, cEDH is for everyone, I'm gonna get people to play cEDH, and it's still a banner that I wave, and still something that I try to show people is that like the games are fun, it's just what you put into it. And so like I spent so long playing these games where like I'd be jamming stacks pieces immediately and I'd be laughing about it, but my guests wouldn't want to come back. They spent 3 hours getting
doing nothing,
getting
doing
pushed,
nothing.
and it's
spinning their
rude
wheels
to invite somebody out on your stream and get them to sit there for 3 hours doing nothing. Like it's a disrespect to somebody's time. So and of course, like I'm saying this, it's all a little bit hyperbolic, right? It's all a little bit explosive, but like it took me a long time.
Hyperbole on my show? Never. Certainly not. Certainly not coming from me. You will never hear hyperbole coming from me ever about anything ever.
It took me a long time to learn, like, okay, like I don't have to be winning. Okay, I can prioritize my opponents. I can prioritize the entertainment. So now I tell people like, we are where optimized for entertainment. We're playing
Yeah.
cEDH, but it's optimized for entertainment. And I also learned that not everybody wants to play cEDH. So I spent a lot of time cultivating decks that were not that, and that I can go and guest on other people's stream and have fun and kind of walk in both worlds. And that's something that I take a lot of pride in, is that I've managed to, I don't know how successfully, but I've managed to walk in both of these worlds. It means the world to me.
Well, yeah, I mean that's why you can show up on things like hijinks or like you can go and play sweaty magic with someone like Joe Johnson, and then you can go to play like weird cheese tier magic with Olivia. And
Yeah.
it's like we've got to be able to, I mean, I think one of the biggest things we as a community need to do is just accept that like it's okay to just have multiple decks for multiple tables.
Yeah.
Like it's fine. We could all just play Commander and have fun.
And also to play games for different reasons.
Yeah.
I think. And that's something that the community has talked about over and over again, but I think still bears harping on, is that like you can, as long as everybody's on the same page, you just gotta like make the agenda clear. And when you go in with the agenda and everybody's like on the same page, you do fine. It's a blast. But so where was it in the before the aside, right? So I started doing the charity streams and took so much inspiration from my guests and learned through the going through the flames of like what makes better shows, what makes better things. And then I learned that if you do charity streams every single month, there's wallet fatigue, there's burnout on your community. So because as much as everybody is stoked about charitable endeavors, not everybody can donate every month. So I dialed it back, and I've dialed it back a lot more since. And it has allowed me to, something my father has always taught me was, especially about this fund, is find something that's already in motion, find something where the pieces are all there, and not where somebody else is like doing the work, but find something where when I walk in and say, I'm going to match, it totally changes it. It changes it from something that other people are doing to wow, this makes my whole year. So like the charitable equivalent is you find a small charity where a large donation will be half of their operating budget for the year, and so I kind of look at it like that. So like it really got me to lean into uplifting the community through supporting their charitable, and I don't know how much of that is me telling myself like I'm doing such a good job by supporting the community, look at me, and how much, and like it's clear that it's appreciated, like people make it very, very clear. But it, like I've worked really hard to champion diversity and to raise people up and to raise up new voices in the community through my stream, and that's something that I think everybody should strive to do. But I think that I'm in a position to double down on that by lifting up other people through the charitable stuff, and by being able to say like, look, you're doing this work, I'm going to make this work shine that much harder.
Yes. That is such a great attitude to have, because like one of the things when you're in a position like you or I, and we've got an audience and we've got the ability to bring faces and stuff up there, it's like, it's a responsibility almost for us to be like, hey, look, our job is to bring people to the light and show you all these other new faces, give other people a chance. Cause like, it doesn't hurt me at all to, put the ladder behind me and reach down and help you get up here. Like, that's one of the things I've always just found annoying about sometimes people will get to places and then just not use their platform to benefit the most people they can. But this is just so challenging, but I think what you're doing is fantastic. I'm a big fan of like kind of the work that you've been putting in there. I really want to talk to you about what you've been doing in cEDH though. Where did you even find Magic in the first place?
I mean, I started playing Magic in 95, maybe, like schoolyard blacktop, buying packs of revised and playing like the true like random pile of cards with, and collecting it because of the spooky art and the whole thing. And then went to high school and played against somebody who was doing like junior super series stuff. And this would be like 98, 97, 98. And he rocked me with like a Urza's Block combo deck. And I was like, had the awakening moment. It was like, you can do what? Like infinite mana? What? He was using like Horseshoe Crab and Earthcraft and
the good old days.
and what is it? I can never remember the name of this card. It's a red card. I think it costs 5 mana, and for a colorless and a red, you can ping somebody.
I know, I can see it in my head.
Yeah, it's got like the dragon head on the card. It's so he
Like
was playing
Tempest
some deck that played that and just made infinite mana and Zorched with the Horseshoe Crab. And I was like, this is crazy. And so from there, like started going to like built a couple of type 2 decks and would go to the free type 2 tournaments on Tuesdays at neutral ground. We would take the subway all the way from Coney Island all the way out to 27th Street, and we would play type 2 at neutral ground. And I was playing mono green Stompy, Suicide Black, and I had a Urza's Block sneak attack deck as well. I loved
oh, those are the golden days,
yes.
Man. Like, oh man. Yes.
So
then where'd you find Commander then?
I went away to college and didn't play Magic for 16 years.
I know that feeling too.
Yep. And so there's a convention that I'm actually literally packing for after I get off this call. I am packing to go to a convention called Arisia. It is ARISIA. It is for 35 years, they've been doing this convention in Boston. It is a sci-fi and fantasy con that started out as a literature convention. And now it's like all in one hotel. It's super like mega inclusive. And my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, would go, and he would do panels and a million things, and he for years was like, you gotta come to this, and I was playing Pathfinder at the time, and my game that I would play with all my buddies, the same play group who I played Magic with in high school, we were playing Talisman, 4th edition Talisman, which is it's an amazing game.
I remember Talisman,
but it's one of the most cutthroat games I've ever played. Like by the end of that game, you hate each other.
Yeah, you do.
It's an amazing game though.
It's incredibly complicated.
So we were playing that consistently, and I went to Arisia, and I brought my 60 card sneak attack deck that I still had from 20 years ago or whatever. And there were kids there playing with these big stacks, and I was like, what is this? And they were like, EDH, you got to get on this, bud. And I was like, 100 cards, this is stupid, and I'm not playing that, get out of here. And I came back the next year, and the same kids were there playing this, because it's not a Magic convention, it's like a sci-fi fantasy convention, but they've got a 24-hour game room. So these kids would be playing Commander till the wee hours, and I went back the next year, and they were like, where's the stack, where's the 100 cards? And I was like, I didn't build it. What are you talking about? I'm not building it, it's stupid. And
what do you mean you can only use one of a card? What the hell is that?
It was this is ridiculous. I was like, can I play my 60 card deck into it? And they were like, no, not really.
No, you can't.
They were like, no. So I was like, yeah, whatever. And I went and played Pathfinder all day. I did like 2 Pathfinder modules instead. I had a blast. And then over the course of the year, like I was living in Boston. Maybe I was visiting Boston. I don't know. But they had the Commander decks at Newberry Comics, and the 2015 Commander decks. And I bought myself a Marin deck, and I bought some for each of my buddies, and I brought them home. And I was like, look, this is what the kids are playing. One for you, one for you, one for you. And we all sat down and looked through the cards, and we were like, Magic's crazy now.
What the hell is all this words and planeswalkers and experience counters. I don't understand what's going on.
So we had that joy that people have of like learning all the new cards and stuff. And then like, I'm like, cool. So I could take out this card and put in a survival of the fittest that I've had for 20 years. Let's go. Like, I've got from that mono green stompy deck, I've got a play set of cradles I'm sitting on. Like, sure,
Jesus,
we'll put cradles in every deck, right? so we kind of like started playing Commander and being the so we would play type 2 and I would play the sneak attack deck into my buddy's mono blue morphling deck, and we would just absolutely butt heads. And so we took that same mentality into Commander, and there was just an arms race. It just went up and up and up and up and up and up. And so we did the ramp gang thing, and then we would go to the Grand Prix, and we would play there, and we would spend all week, the week before, playing every night. We would call it the gravity chamber. We'd be like, comp REL, like no takebacks, no takebacks, because we were prepping for this, for the ticketed Commander events that they would have, right? Because they would have and there's no takebacks in those events. They're ticketed. Nope. That's for dollars. I'm paying money to do this. I'm going to stomp you. I'm going to play my turn 1 root maze. I'm going to make everybody cry. You forget your trigger, you're going to take your crypt damage. All
tough,
that
buddy.
So we were sweaty about it. And so and like Rebel will tell the story about me showing up and being like, I'm going to win with Marin on turn 3. And so we kind of like went through.
Was Rebel in your crew?
Rebel was part of the kitchen table group. Yeah. So Rebel is ramp gang for sure. One of the OGs, and she would play with us, and came out to King's games, and we would play, and brought her into the ramp gang chat, and the rest is history. And so me and her have a crazy like parallel trajectory that we've always kind of like back of house been like pushing each other harder, pushing each other awesome. To go harder. But so we took that mentality and just we're playing like a spice. And this is like in the not quite the early days, but the earlier days of cEDH, And so then I started streaming it, and when you stream it, you ask other content creators, other prominent members, clout chasing, call it what you will, but I would try to get, and that's another part of it, is like Rebel told me early on, like, just own it, like you're out here, you're clout chasing, you're trying to get recognition, you're trying to do all that shit, but you just have to be based about it. You have to own it. Like, if that's what you're doing. So I've never had qualms about being like, yes, I am doing this because I want to be that guy. I want to be somebody who people will be like, that's that guy, And I mean,
I'm not going to tell you no. What do you think the show is, man? This entire show is clout chase, right?
So, and it comes back full circle to the conversation we had earlier about being visible, about being hyper visible on the convention floor. And that's like, when I show up on the convention floor with a microphone, I want people to be like, oh, it's Allan, it's that guy. And not only does it make the event more exciting, but it gives the attendees that lift. It gives the attendee. I put some random person in front of a microphone to talk about whatever anything for a live audience, and all of a sudden they've got a voice too. And it's something that I really admire about you specifically, is you go out there in the trenches and you play Magic at an LGS every week, right? Like, that's something I don't have the luxury of doing, because I'm streaming all the time. I don't have my schedule set, and I have a family, and the fact that you're able to balance it is amazing to me.
Well, I mean, it's harder for me to do these days because, like, I can't go every week, but I do. Yeah. I mean, I play with people. That's the whole point.
Do you play with the same people on a regular basis?
I try not to.
So that's really, really important. So when I go to a show, I try not to sit down with my creator buddies. I try to get games with strangers, because it's giving you an idea of what is not the enfranchised, full power, spicy, sweaty, to whateveristic study ass decks that we're all playing. Like, And sometimes it is that. Sometimes you do play against that, but it's something that I really admire about you specifically is that you put the work in to
Well, I want to
immerse
learn. I want to
yourself.
know where you're coming from, because how am I going to manage this format if I don't know what people are doing? It
Yep.
doesn't matter that you're not playing my kind of magic. I need to know what kind of magic you're playing, and I need to be able to make that the most fun I can for you. But the thing is though, it's weird because like these days I can't play at cons anymore. I can't play at events anymore. It's just not possible. Like I mean, at the last one in Vegas, maybe, or Minnesota, or whatever the hell it was, me, Light, Tappy, and Ashlyn Rose sat down to play a game. You know what happened? Literally, if somebody's taking the turn, the other three people would have people just lining up to try to get autographs or signs or whatever. And I realized this long time ago, actually, that if I try to sit and play at cons, it's going to be bad for the other three people I'm playing with, because people are just going to keep bothering me.
Yep.
And it's like, and I felt really bad about that. I'm like, I'm ruining your experience and wasting your time because these people are just, want to talk to me. And I'm not going to say, hey, dude, don't talk to me right now, because that's like a jerk move too. So I realized the only games I get at cons these days end up being at LobbyCon afterwards.
Yep.
Right. Like, and, that's fine, because that way I can at least walk around the hall and I can take notes and I can pay attention and I can ask questions and I can see what other people are doing without feeling that I'm locked into a table for like 2.5 hours or whatever, and that it's just going to be real hard to remember the board state.
So that's what I've tried to do with the live thing, with going live, is like, not only am I talking to people who are standing and talking to content creators and talking to everybody who's out there, but I will sit and go up to a table and say, whose turn is it right now? And then pick the person who just took their turn before them and start talking to that person and be like, can I turn this around? I'm live. Can I talk to you about the game you're playing? And I'll ask them, what commander are you playing? Who's your favorite card? Are these guys bullying you? Who's winning right now? Like, and half jokey questions, but also it gives me an idea of what the state of the format is, and it also gives them a quick little platform to talk about their deck. I love this card, I love this deck, this is why I love this deck. And it shows everybody who's watching what the for lack of a better term, what the everyman is playing. And that's something that I think is really missing from the content creator experience.
It is 100%.
The people who go out there and put in the work to play with the general populace have so much respect for me.
I mean, the thing is, like, if we don't do that, how do we know that? Like, how else are we going to find out things like one of the things the biggest thing I learned was with Golos. And Golos was like the big lesson for me in this. Was like, okay, let's go and play with what the people are playing, play with the people, see who's talking, talk to everybody, see what your groups are doing. And that's when you learn that Golos is this gigantic menace for a whole bunch of disenfranchised players who don't sit and tweet all day. And there's a bunch of folks who are like, oh, Golos is fine, it's totally normal, it's easy, I can beat it with anything, right? But then you talk and you go to like stores and you talk to the people and they're like, yo, dude, or like, I'm playing on Spell Table and everybody's just playing Golos all the time, or I'm playing at the store and the sweaty guys who come and crush our games are always, and that's when you're like, oh, this is a problem for everybody. And I mean, if you don't do these kinds of, like, if you don't do the groundwork, then a lot of what we're doing is just puppetry, right? It's lip service, it's pointless. Like, that was one of the things like Sheldon impressed on me like early on, was like, look, dude, we need to know what's going on. We need to know what the people are doing, what the people are playing. Like, if you're gonna run a format for God knows hundreds of thousands of people across the world, you can't just make off the cuff decisions based on like your feelings.
Yep.
Like, if Commander was based on my feelings, it would look very different, right? Like, yeah, it would be a whole lot more like weirdo bands. But like, no, you got to sit there and go like, hey man, just because you don't like this card, maybe that's like a you problem and not the format problem.
Yeah.
Maybe you love this card, but it is a format problem, and you need to acknowledge and appreciate that. And you can only do that by actually going and seeing what the people are doing.
Yeah, playing with the people for sure is huge.
Like, that's why Hull Breacher, I think, actually not Golos. Hull Breacher was a bigger one than Golos. Golos is more like, we just saw the numbers were just insane, and also that card is not okay. But like Hull Hullbreacher would have been fine if it had stayed at CDH tables. It would have been like fine if it's at the toppest tier and you guys are ready to deal with it and can. I mean, actually, that card wasn't fine on any tier.
No, that card mega sucked.
It sucked, but
I
I
hated
think
that
we would have
card.
let it live if it was just like bothering the Thassa's Oracle tier of
Yeah.
people, right? But the fact that like it came out and then there was the Riel commander that came out and everybody's like, oh, what if we just put all these cool wheel cards together and then casual
Mm-hmm.
players are just suddenly just tanking the entire table, and it's
Yep.
like, okay, well, no, this is a problem for not. This is a problem for the whole column, not just the top.
Yep.
And you
It's
learn that by
it
learning, man.
yeah, you got to learn by playing, and I think that's super important. But as far as CEDH, like, yeah, it became about like streaming it, and I started on the same platform that a lot of people do of I'm going to stream CEDH and I'm going to make my channel about how CEDH is not this boogeyman. It does We're going to destigmatize CEDH. And there are still people who run on that platform, and I still run on that platform for sure, but become uh it's become standard operating procedure for me is playing the way I play is playing CEDH optimized for entertainment, So like I don't have to say Mental Misplay is about destigmatizing CEDH because for anybody who's watching my channel, like it's clear, I'm also very aware that when we're only making gameplay videos of cEDH, and the people who are watching it are enfranchised players who don't need card overlays for every card we're playing because there's only a 400 card pool, so we don't have to like explain it. So there's like the format has been destigmatized to a point, and there's less of that us versus them othering that was prevalent for so long. And
We've worked very hard, very, very hard to try to lower that wall at least.
it's due to the CAG and the RC, and also uh creators who have put the time in to show
Honestly,
this.
if I was going to say anybody, I would say it's Jim and Rebel who did the
Yep.
most to help bring this kind of the higher power community to a place where people aren't scared of it.
Yep.
And
Jim.
like because I mean, I was that jerk before where I was like, oh man, screw the CDH and never
Yep.
like I'm on the record, everybody knows, but like I changed because I put the work in and I sat and I tried
Mm-hmm.
to not be a jerk.
Yeah,
And I'm like, look, it's okay. You can play that. I appreciate it and I want to support you. I
it's
want this to be fun for you.
it's a different game, but you can play it with
Yeah, like look,
the
dude.
same variables, the same mental metrics of like I'm gonna still make the same dumb jokes about the same cards and the
Right.
same. You can.
That's the thing that got me. It's like at the end of the day, it's 4 or 5 folks sitting at a table just BSing with each other.
Uh
Like, yeah,
huh.
what we're doing with the cards might be different, but at the end of the day, I just want people to sit down at a table and stand up and say, "Man, that was awesome. Let's do it again." I don't
Yep.
care what it is. I
Yep.
just want you to get up feeling that your time was well spent. And changing my mentality to that focus instead of being like casual versus CDH. Oh, no, no, no. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what's on the table. What matters is how you feel when you leave the table.
Yes. There's and yeah, yeah, I can definitely get behind that. And how you feel while you're playing also,
Well,
but
yeah,
that
that
is
too. Like
also like
you don't want to be
that
you don't want it to suck. You
that
want it to be fun.
how you're feeling when you're at the table also dictates how you feel when you
Yes.
leave the table. So
I
I
mean,
understand
obviously,
that.
you know my stance, which is like I want to make sure that like I feel that we're responsible for the happiness of the folks we're playing with. And like I know that's a controversial statement to make, but it's born from my own like, personal philosophy and life, which is that like if the people around me aren't happy because of what I'm doing, I should change what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And
So
it's like, yeah, come on.
I had that experience. I had a game. There was somebody who won a big cEDH tournament, and I got them on the channel. And they came out, and it was me and him and Jim and a fourth. I don't remember who the fourth person was. And I spent the whole night just making this guy just eat it. just stuffing this guy's win cons just over and over and over again. So he sat there for 3 hours and he did nothing. And 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 Rebel hit me up afterwards and was like, that person didn't have a good time on your stream. And that was it. That clicked. I was like, oh, I want my guests to have a good time. And it was this big awakening moment for me of like, okay, I see. And, like, this is controversial, but maybe it means like not stuffing somebody's win con when I have it. And in cEDH, that's a big no-no.
There are a lot of people who would be like, get the hell out, man. What are you talking about?
Yep. And it's not. And that's why I say we're optimized for entertainment, like I'm here so that, and if I just sit here and just every time somebody pushes, I just stop their win con every time I have it, they're going to have a bad time. They're going to say, man, I went on Allan's stream and he just made me eat crow for 3 hours. Like, no one wants that.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, it's a challenge, man. Like we want people to have fun, especially like when you're playing for entertainment versus playing for, if you're playing at your table at home or at a tournament or whatever, kick the crap out of them. Who cares? Like,
yeah, with your buddies, you
guys have an understanding. But if we're here for the entertainment of the guest and for the audience,
yeah,
you got to change your mentality a little bit. That's
somebody all. I've never met before, never talked to before. Besides, hey, you want to
now? We'll never talk to you again.
Yeah. And so yeah, that was a big moment for me, is learning how to, and it's super controversial to be like, maybe I won't stop this guy's win con, but it's like, okay, I want him to go home feeling like good about mental misplay.
If there's like, that's a lesson we take from Command Zone, which is like, those guys are sitting there and you've seen games where Josh or Jimmy will have the win in their hand and they will do some doofy play or something that won't win them the game, or they won't counter, I don't know, Posty's win con or whatever it is, because they understand what is the goal of what we're doing here. The goal of what we're doing here is to be the most entertaining we can and to make sure that our guests feel really good. It's not just to play to win. This isn't a tournament. Like the stakes are different, right? Like the stakes are not, I don't win a prize if I win on a fun stream. Like if I'm on a stream, the prize is the fact that we had 3,000 people watching us.
Yeah.
Right.
There's the stakes couldn't be lower, is what I've heard said over and over again. And
yeah, man. How was it like going to Loading Ready Runtown? Was that not the best?
Yeah, those guys are rad. That was a wild trip for sure. But so that's also why I don't play. There's a few reasons why I don't play tournament cEDH, and one is that I've kind of trained myself to play in this bombastic way that isn't suited for playing tournament EDH. Like the last one I played was in Copenhagen, and it was awesome, but it physically drained me and made me unable to do content. And so like I can't play every round and then interview people between rounds. Like it's impossible. It's so painfully difficult.
I every time I think about someone saying that, I think about Reed Duke, who had to do GP Richmond, play the entire Legacy tournament, and then also in between rounds, literally he was doing commentary on his own games and all. I'm like, how are you going to do this to a guy? That's just, I mean, it was the most entertaining GP I've ever seen in my life, but it was also like, I cannot imagine how miserable that must have been to do.
It's grueling.
It's got to be exhausting.
So brutal.
And cEDH is not easy. cEDH is incredibly mentally taxing. You have to keep 4 board states in your head.
Yes.
And you have to know exactly what's in everybody's hand. You got to be able to wheedle the other guy into stifling this thing so you don't have to stifle it. You got to like, I mean, it's so much. It's so much. And I'm like, that's just not the kind of game I want to play. Like, I have nothing against it. I love watching cEDH, but I don't want to have to be the one holding all that stuff in my head. It's just not how it works.
So when I was doing commentary for Callahan's MLC series, me and Modanon were doing the shake and bake commentary for that, and I wanted to be better at it. So I hit up a fella named Lasergician. He's on Twitter. He does commentary for a lot of video game stuff, a lot of esports and like Smash Brothers tournaments and stuff. And I asked him, I was like, and this is like another formative moment. I said, what do I do? And he said, you want to sell people not on playing the game, but you want to sell people on watching the game.
Mm, mm.
And one, he said sell, and I was like, okay, now you're talking my language, because I come from 15 years of sales experience. That's where the toxic hustle, that's where my drive of like, I want to make content, I want to be the best, I'm going to be on game nights live, like that's where my drive to like hit that next quota comes from, is the years of toxic New York sales hustle. But he said sell people on it, and I was like, oh, now this is a word that I understand.
Mm.
And so that's what I'm trying to do when I'm going live, when I'm in between rounds talking to people, is I'm trying to make them excited about watching me talk to people, about watching, and you could be excited about cEDH all day, but that's what my Twitch stream is for. You could watch me play cEDH, and then yeah, so it's been an interesting kind of journey through cEDH, and I'll play it, and people still want to play cEDH with me, but like the meta's in a good place. I'm happy with it. It's Bowmaster's meta right now. It's Bowmaster's and Dockside's meta, but but I'd rather play casual games with people and just like not have to think, not have to be mental. So I started playing a new deck that is incredibly mentally taxing. I've started playing blue and white Heliod in cEDH. This deck is a what's that? The new one
from March.
Yeah, Flip Heliod. This deck is a nightmare to play. But I've always played cEDH like just slam the thing and pass the turn and let everybody else deal with it. I've been playing Flip Atali for the last 3 months in cEDH, and this deck is literally count to 7, slam Atali, uncounterable if you can, and hope for the best. And entertainment wise, it's the best thing ever, because if I win on turn 2 by playing Atali, it's hysterical. And if I turbo whiff and flip into 4 counter spells, it's also hysterical.
Atali both Atalis are some of my favorite cards ever printed. They're just so exactly what I want to be doing in Commander.
It brings in the RNG element into a cEDH game. It brings RNG into it, and that means everything to me. But this Heliod deck is like, it's teaching me to play not just like a counter war, but like a counter war where no matter what anybody is doing, because he's a Vidalcan Ori on the other side.
Let me read Heliod for the audience at home really quick. Heliod's a 4/4 for 2 and 2 white. And when it enters the battlefield, you return a target enchantment card that isn't a god from the graveyard to your hand, and you can pay 3 in a Phyrexian blue to flip him over. And if you flip him over, he's a 4/6 that says you can cast spells that have flash, and spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card your opponents have drawn this turn. So I can see that being a real nasty control deck.
The thing is,
force draw.
It's not a control deck, is what I had to learn. It's this is a play Heliod, flip Heliod, wait till somebody else pushes, and then try to win over them. Which, I don't play a lot of blue. I don't play a lot of control. So it's hard already. I'm not used to playing with counter spells in my hand. But Heliod is encouraging other people to interact and draw cards. So I'm feeding other people's Ristic studies to make my stuff cheaper. But what that does is gives them more interaction. So I have to fight through everything tooth and nail when it's my turn to push, right? So I'm fighting through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things on the stack every time I'm trying to push with this deck. It's wild. It is absolutely insane. So this is like, but it's not necessarily a good cEDH deck, but it's teaching me to play on a new axis, on a new metric. It's helping me learn as a player, which is awesome.
That's the best way to go, man. That's the best we can hope for. So, Allan, thank you so much for coming on today. I really, really appreciate it. It's great to talk to you. Finally, it's great to finally get this going. I have nothing but respect for you. And if folks wanted to find you or your stream, where could they go?
The running joke is anywhere you can write Mental Misplay, you can scrawl it in the sand at the beach and I'll pop out and throw a beach party with you. But really, just, anywhere you can write Mental Misplay, Twitch, twitch.tv/mental_misplay on Tuesdays and Fridays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. With any luck, you'll be seeing me at way more events in the future. If you're at an event, look for the guy with a loud shirt and a microphone.
Do not miss him.
Listen, I'm trying to be extremely visible so that people know I'm there. So,
and as always, my friends, you can find me at Gear Reporting Gears. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at Cool Stuff Inc. on Tuesdays, or at YouTube on Tuesdays, thanks to my editor, Dan May. And you can also find me on Shivam and Wheeler Love Magic, and on the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast, or at Patreon, at patreon.com/ShivanB. And remember, my friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we'll see you next time.